Welcome to Contextual Electronics. My name is Chris Gamble. Today we're going to go over a new feature in KiCad 5.0, which is importing Eagle schematics into your KiCad schematic. This is really useful because Eagle for a long time has been the de facto for a lot of open source hardware, and Eagle is a good program. That's actually what I learned on, but I moved over to KiCad about 5 years ago and really happy that I did. The nice thing about this is it basically allows you to pull in existing schematics. You don't have to necessarily start from scratch, and you can even have a reference for when you're starting your schematics. I think it's a really useful thing. So let's take a look at this and hope for the future that other other companies will do the same. So we're going to go into this is a test project that I have going on. So this is just Eagle test import test rather, and I'm going to go into File. This is in the schematic EE schema program. File, import non-KiCad schematic file. I'm going to go up one folder, and I have a Adafruit feather wing, it's called, and it just shows up as a .sch. Now you'll notice that the same extension is used for Eagle and KiCad, and so it might have problems if you try and open a .sch. I think it will have problems here, but anyways, let's try and open it up. And here we go. Now, one thing to note here is that the frame disappeared. I don't have a huge love for the frame itself, but I will show you one way to go and get rid of that thing here. So what we can do is we can go into here we go. So if, it's the page layout description file, and what we should be able to do is just take that out of here. Oh, maybe I have to delete it separately. Oh no, there it is. Okay, yeah. So then I thought that was it. So you see that the frame has returned here, and so that's just kind of making it look like a KiCad schematic again. Same thing here. If we want to change the actual size of this page, you see how that's a little bit too small here. We just go into, this is the wrong one. Sorry. We go into the this is different on the layout and the schematic program. So we want to go into the page setup here, which is, I thought it was here. Am I doing this right? Ah, that's right. Okay, here we go. It's set custom. That's what threw me off. Here we go. So usually I set mine to 11 by 17. That's a standard letters or tabloid size page in the U.S. I know that a lot of other countries use A123, so you could set that as well. But I just set it to something bigger, and that just gives me a little bit more room here as well. Now, one thing to note is that the pins that we actually are using here, this is where it gets a little bit weird. So things like this, right? So it shows a ground here, but what's actually happening is that if I delete this ground, it actually will still be connected, and that's because there is a little label here. Oops, I was not able to grab it there. Let's see if I can maybe get a smaller grid. So if I go in here, there's a label on this pin. So if I want to actually assign a new pin or a new net to this pin here, I need to go and do that specifically, and that can be problematic. Another thing to note is that things like this specifically, this does not actually have a pin number showing. So let's go into the editor here. So if I mouse over, right-click, go to Properties, Edit with Library Editor. It's loading up all my libraries. But you see that it did pull in the schematic symbol here, but some things in Eagle do not have pin numbers, and there's just some difference in how they actually associate things. So things like this, where there's a power input, you see, if we mouse over, hit E, it says pin 5, but it's not showing pin 5, so that's important to know. But sometimes there's other things, like there's pins that are stacked on top of one another. See, there's a pin thermal, that's another one here. So this is basically in this part type, there's a center pad here, and it's connecting to both of them. And so it's important to note that sometimes there's pins stacked on top of one another, and there are some differences between how Eagle does things and how KiCad does things, and you need to be careful with that. So that's just one example here. Let's see if there's anything else in this schematic that we can look at. Same thing here. You see, like, there's little tiny labels here, right? This is actually a global label that's been applied. So VBAT and USB, we can actually go in and move these if we want to. But that's the only way that you can actually go in and label things. The first time I started doing it, I started like running a wire here, right? So I'd go and run a wire to here, and I thought I was connected, but it turns out, nope, VBAT is still the thing that's connected here. So that's important to know. So what I normally do, and what I do recommend, at least at the beginning, as you're getting used to this, is to import this and then do it as use as a reference, right? So that you can see all the connections, you can use them in a similar way. Honestly, I think it'll be faster just to redraw them. Some people like to use them, wholeheartedly, and that's fine. You use the whole thing and just use that for their schematic. I don't necessarily recommend that. I use it as a reference. And so let me show you one other thing that I normally do. So what I'll do is I'll actually go and create a hierarchical sheet, right? So I actually create a subsheet here, give it just the generic name, that's fine. I right-click, go into Enter Sheet. So this is now a sub-schematic of the other thing, and now I will import this non-schematic file, non-KiCad schematic file. Save and load. And we want to go back one. And I think now it's already open. Okay, so I have to actually create a different one in order to do that. But I really like to put it in the sub-schematic here because I think that is a little bit cleaner, and then you can use it for other things here. Otherwise, if you import another schematic on top of this one, it actually will just plop it right down in the middle of your schematic sheet. So that's another thing to be careful of. So it is a nice way to pull in a reference. Like I said, I only use it as a reference. I don't actually use the entire thing because all of the schematic symbols, all of the footprints, everything, you don't necessarily want to duplicate all your work, but I think that it's a little bit safer and cleaner to just use it as a reference and then build your own things around that. So we'll have more videos about how to interoperate between KiCad and other programs here, and more things about KiCad features in the schematic editor in the future. If you have any other questions, you can go over to the forum. That's forum.kicad.info, or you can go and ask questions about electronics in general over at forum.contextualelectronics.com. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.